It's bad. Anime.
Hello, everybody. My name is John.
And my name is Rob.
And this is Bad Anime, the podcast where we decide, is this anime bad? And today, Rob, what anime are we talking about today?
Okay, yeah, today may have been a little self-serving because this has been something on my checklist for a while.
Really has it? Okay.
Because it's just come up as a sci-fi anime buff. People always talk about today's entry, Legends of the Galactic Heroes. It came out in '88, and what fascinated me about it is a long-running OVA series. And by long-running, I mean 110 of them. And for OVAs, that's quite long.
That's a lot of OVAs, I feel like.
And that's just the main series. I think there's several other spin-offs or sequels. I think there's a TV series within the last decade. So we got a lot going on here. And the thing I wanted to test out today is I wanted to do a 3-episode rule on this because there's 110 of these, and they're OVAs. So think about the poor people in the 80s who had to buy the episodes individually. Well, maybe not one by one.
No.
Well, maybe not one by one. I mean, I don't know how many came with on the tape. So, but people had to buy these, which always fascinates. The whole psychology of OVAs, especially at the time, fascinates me. And 110 of them. That's quite a lot. So I wanted to go with.
Yeah.
So I wanted to watch the first 3 of these with you. A, to see if I like it, and B, to say can we see this story going for 110 episodes?
Right. Like, is it possible to take what we've seen in the first 3 episodes and drag some version of that out, or kind of see how many different versions of that there could be?
Exactly.
And kind of take that for 110 episodes. Like, do you think it could have lasted 110 episodes if they didn't need to do it for money or something like that? Also, I would like to sidebar and tell everybody that we're very tired. We're doing this in the morning.
Yeah, we're doing this at 10:30 in the morning. I'm definitely feeling a little hungover, Ski, but that's fine.
Well, that's because the Ducks lost last night. Is that correct?
That was a large part of it, yeah. And well, that was a nice way to put it. We got fucking smacked, lost a 7-1, and the Isles just killed us
against the Islanders.
Yeah.
The Islanders are the Chad. That never happens. I feel like.
The Islanders are the most. With the exception of the Rangers, the Islanders are really one of the most hot and cold teams that I follow in professional sports. And then
especially cold because they play on ice.
And then the New York Guardians are apparently moving to Orlando, so that didn't help my drunken stupor.
No.
Yeah, so a lot went down last night in a very short period of time.
Oh boy. Well, here we are now. Talking.
Your face says oh no, we already started, but I want to make sure Rob's okay. I'm like, I'm fine. We will discuss more later.
I just want to make sure you're okay, and I want our viewers at home or wherever you are to know that I'm currently sitting in a chair, and Rob is half naked, fully sprawled out like Paint Me One of Your French Girls. On his bed right now with a microphone, and I have no idea what you're using to put the microphone on, but it is so still, and I can't believe it's working, and I appreciate it.
It's just on my mattress.
It's pretty good. It's a pretty good way to do it, actually.
It's working out so far. So let's talk about what the hell we just watched.
Yes, is this anime working out so far? I unfortunately have to ask you for the name again because it's something galacticheroes, correct?
Legends of the Galactic Heroes, yeah.
Legends of. Okay, I'm writing this down so I don't forget it again because that would be embarrassing.
That would be unbecoming of podcast hosts.
I also would have to title this episode eventually and figure it out. So
that
there's that too. But yeah, let's dive into this a little bit. So I took minimal notes only because I was like, okay, I'm watching it so close because unlike a lot of other stuff that we watch, I watched it very, very close to us recording this episode, so it's very fresh in the mind.
Right, I think we both finished it 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I saw you watching it on High Dive, and it was 35% over, and I was like, ooh. Yep. And also, great way to justify your High Dive subscription by throwing in another High Dive anime, because we really haven't done one in a while.
I'm working through High Dive one step at a time, trying to remind myself why I'm paying the $50 a year.
It's a very minimal amount, but there's just so much content on High Dive, especially Redo of Healer.
Oh yeah, that's the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it?
It's the gift that keeps on healing. That is what it is.
Oh, oh.
But anyways,
Mm,
Legends of the Galactic Heroes, that's the name.
yes.
So as you would assume, it does in fact take place in space. So what I got from this first episode, first three episodes, is that the overarching storyline, because the first episode starts with a big exposition dump, and it's
Yes.
basically a narrator just telling you everything and just what you're seeing, which is usually something I would like, but I don't know. I feel like it's a big no-no for me nowadays because I'm like,
Really?
like why don't you just let me figure it out on my own over time, you know?
Ooh, someone's changing their methodology here.
I've been changing a little bit. Yeah, I gotta say I don't appreciate it on the first episode, but the ninth episode out of 12, that's when I like it. That's when I like.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
guys, now here's what's going on. So then I can wonder, and there's confusion for a little while,
And then it fills
but
in the
anyways,
gaps.
exactly, and it fills in the gaps of what I have been thinking, or it verifies some things or denies other thoughts that I've been having. But this one just starts out with straight up narration, like, all right, guys, like, here's what you got to know. Here's the Empire. The Empire is basically Fire Emblem in space.
Right.
And also, here is their enemies, the Alliance, and they're right across from each other. And the Alliance is more so like a modern style government. And right in between them is this little planet or group of people called Fezan, which is
Yeah, it was
just
like a city
traitors.
state.
Yeah, and they don't have any loyalty to either one, but they trade in between, and they kind of keep an eye on everything. They seem kind of like this third party that just like a Switzerland kind of thing, but they're
If
a little
anything,
more
if anything,
devious.
Fazan is like profiting from the war because they keep selling shit to both sides. It's like,
Yeah.
so they don't have loyalty to either side, but they have a vested interest in making sure the war keeps going.
Right. It's like who's like somebody can win the war, but who really wins the war? They do because they
Exactly.
got all that sweet fresh moolah baby right in their
They get
bums.
all that moolah. My goodness.
That's right, they do. So that's basically what the very beginning states for everybody, and I'm like, okay, well, there you go. And then obviously the Alliance and the Empire are like these two rock and a hard place entities that keep fighting consistently.
But look how much cooler
And
the Empire looks.
they look so much cooler because, like as we said, like the Alliance, they just look like like a modern military kind of unit and
Yeah,
like
like
a modern government.
they look like less outlandish versions of GI Joe. It's very
Yes.
very
Yes, they
80s
do.
cartoon military. It's but not in a very exciting
Yes.
way. It's kind of drab, a lot of green in their
Right.
color palette. While how do I put this? The Empire reminds me a lot of the Xeon forces from Gundam, but more black
Hmm.
and silver
Yeah.
aesthetics. So it's just so funny. Um it was almost putting me to sleep a little bit, these scenes with the Empire at first, because A, we're tired, and B, the first couple episodes were kind of exactly very plot heavy, very dialogue heavy, because again, these were adapted from novels. So
Right.
has a novel adaptation problem where it's just a lot of dialogue. And so seeing all like it was cool, all the black and silver, but it was like, with a very dark, a lot of dark screens in the beginning, a lot of kind of
Hmm.
very drab kind of military dialogue. So I was like
Hmm.
dozing it off in the first episode. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, oh boy. Yeah. Same.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And then throughout that episode, I think like the kind of dichotomy between the Empire and Alliance is very much there in like what they wear, who they are, and like as I was
Hmm.
explaining before, I feel like everybody in the Empire looks like a Fire Emblem character. Like they
Yeah.
all just look like Fire Emblem characters. They all have like a different weird color
But in
hair.
space.
But in space, and the main character on the Empire side is Reinhardt, and Reinhardt has like this gold hair, which he always gets like every time somebody brings him up, they're
They
like,
talk
oh,
a
the boy
lot
with
about the gold hair. It was kind of like how do I put it? It wasn't disturbing in a way, but it was just kind of weird. It's like, why do we keep going back to the
it's
hair
like,
exactly?
why do we keep like bringing this up? Because his sister also has like that color hair, and nobody seems to care about that.
Yeah, no one.
Because she's like a baroness back on the Empire's homeworld, which, as I think in the third episode, we figured out that the Empire's homeworld or main base is like covered by this insanely thick, like liquid metal shield or something. So they got some shit figured
one
out
of their
over there.
base, the other big base that they've they subtly built up through the first 3 episodes. They have this giant, like, impenetrable base. It's basically a Death Star.
Right. It's basically a Death Star. And he's working, basically Reinhardt is kind of like, it seems that from what I'm getting is that the story here is that he's basically like a prince of the Empire, and he's
Right.
trying to gain traction, and he's trying to become like a strategic military general, or earn some commandership or whatnot. And he is like at the helm of this particular battle that really kicks off in the first episode, pretty much.
Yeah, the Battle of, it starts with an A, and I can't remember.
Yeah,
the name.
I can't remember it either. I tried so hard to remember this name because it was like a Treza.
Here's what we'll do, because I need to run to the bathroom. It's because I know it's hardly unprofessional, but how about you look up the name while I use the bathroom real quick?
It's piss.
You know, I was gonna say Artasia, but that's actually like Char's and Abel's sister in Gundam, so...
Honestly, close enough because I couldn't find it anywhere.
Perfect. Let's go with Artasia for now, even though that's wrong.
Artasia sounds good, and it's the wrong answer, but that's just fine today. Yeah, so where were we? We were talking about this battle of Artasia.
Yeah,
it's
so
like the first big battle.
Yeah, so Reinhardt's commanding the Imperial forces. They're outnumbered 2-1, and all like the older Imperial cats are like, Reinhardt, this is stupid. And Reinhardt's like, bro, I got this. And he kind of does.
He kind of does, though. He does. He really has a strategic edge over them. And it's kind of weird the entire time, which gives you a bit of mystery, is when Reinhardt is like, don't worry, we can defeat them as long as that special someone isn't in their ranks. And everybody's like, who's that? And then, of course, it flashes to the Alliance side to show Yang is his name.
Wang.
Wang? Is it Wang?
Is it Wang or Yang? I don't know.
It's Yang. Yang Wenli.
Damn,
Yang.
I wish it was Wang.
Yeah, it would be so much better if it was Wang. Just imagine like, oh my God, I'm going to get that throbbing Wang. How dare he?
I'm Reinhardt.
I'm Reinhardt for that Wang. But no, it's just Wang. No, it's Yang. It's Yang. And Yang is kind of like a... It seems like on the Alliance side, he's not a commander. He's not really in that spot yet, but he has a lot of really good ideas. He kind of strikes me as the person that would slack off in school. That one of our friends brought this to my mind very quickly.
Okay.
Where he would slack off in school, but he was actually just very, very just naturally gifted and smart.
I think I know who exactly you're talking about.
Yeah, and he would just excel at literally everything, but not care and not even invest time in it. I think he's kind of one of, at least how he's described by his superiors, he seems that way.
He does seem that way. He seemed, but like, actually, wait, no. Wang's interesting. He's just not very assertive. You know what I mean? Yang. I know. I'm gonna keep saying Wang accidentally.
It's fine.
Because Yang has like a battle plan that he presents to his commanders, but they reject it.
Yeah.
So it's weird. Like, he's just not going to stand up for himself. But then the battle between Reinhardt and the Alliance forces starts going horribly for the Alliance. Mm-hmm. And at this point, we're not sure if Reinhardt's our protagonist or Yang is. We don't really know who our protagonist is at this point.
Yeah.
Because it's just back and forth where Reinhardt's going, we're kicking ass. And Wang's like, they're kicking our ass.
They're kicking our ass. We got to do something. And I feel like
that was basically the first 2 episodes was just basically dialogue surrounding this battle.
Yeah, pretty much. And the whole time in the first episode, I feel like viewers can get a little frustrated, which is like what the show wants. With the commander on the Alliance side is named Commander Lapp, Lieutenant Lapp, which is just very interesting.
Right.
And Lieutenant Lapp is just an annoying boomer, and Yang, who is this very, very smart millennial Gen Z boy, is giving him all this stuff, and this Lap guy is like, no, that goes against our warrior code. We have to save the 4th Battalion. And he's like, no, because he wants to save the 4th Battalion, so he wants to send in the 2nd and the 6th Battalion to save the 4th Battalion. And Yang's like, well,
the entire time, Yang is just like, you gotta let them die here. They're done. They're dead.
Yeah. He was like, they're probably, if they're not already dead, by the time we get both battalions there, they will be dead. And then those battalions will die. And then the commander's like, nah, bro, I'm going to just send all of our boys in because you can't let a homie die alone. So he sends in the 2nd and the 6th Battalion to help the 4th Battalion. Obviously, they're already dead. And then obviously, Reinhardt's like, why did they send 2 more armies here? I don't know. I'm going to just yeet them out. So then he just destroys both of them. So all their battalions are pretty much doomed. And then...
They call, and towards the end of the battle, Yang takes command after there's an explosion on the ship and the commander gets knocked out. Yang takes over, and he later becomes the hero of the battle because he saves a ton more lives from being lost by, I think, like, they change tactics a little bit, and they wind up eventually retreating.
Right.
Which is so funny because in the 3rd episode, they cut to like the Alliance homeworld headquarters or whatever. And they're calling it a great victory. And then at the same time, Yang's like, we lost 1.5 million people. And the Empire lost like 100,000. I think we lost her. Why are they reporting this as a victory?
It's pretty crazy. I really like that angle too, because it was like,
it's a cool little propaganda angle to throw in there.
It definitely is, and both sides have a little bit of it too, because like the Empire technically also didn't win the battle. Technically, nobody really won.
They just kind of ran away.
But they all report it back to their countries as like, yeah, we kicked ass. We like didn't 1.5 million troops die? Yeah, but we kicked ass though.
But we kicked their ass.
Which is crazy. And also there's another little note on the Alliance side of things. When the main ship starts blowing up and the commander gets taken out, somebody else, I do not remember his name. You probably will not. I'm sure it probably will be brought up a bunch in the series. But this guy dies. He's like a blonde guy on the Alliance side. And he's holding like a photo of his fiance, and it's like, one of those 3D photos because space and future. And then he drops it, and because he's impaled by like a piece of the ship, and I was like, oh, god damn. And then
I also remember that scene from Gunbuster. What?
Yeah, pretty much, honestly. Very similar to a Gunbuster. But then in the 3rd episode, we get a bit of an insight into his fiance, whose name is Jessica. And by the 3rd episode, after Yang gets back from just slapping his wang right on the face of the Empire, and everybody's like, you're a war hero. He starts talking to Jessica because, this guy was his best friend and her fiance. They see each other at his grave and they start chatting. And obviously, like, at this point, the wound's pretty fresh for her. It's like it's something that's happened very quickly. She's not doing great. It's a traumatic event that she hasn't gotten past quite yet, and that's okay. And that's okay because she has time to get past that and fuck Yang. I mean, what? What? Because that's definitely going to happen in the next 110 episodes. I'm sure it is because they got all this tension going on, and Yang's definitely like, he's a good guy, so he's not gonna like take his friend's fiance. But at the same time, his friend's dead, and his friend would want them both to go on. He
would want them both to be happy.
I'm looking into like episode 50 territory here, but you know what I mean.
Solid guess.
But yeah, so we're introduced to her in the 3rd episode, and then, as you said, when everybody goes back to their countries, they report it as this big victory. And Jessica, at some point, confronts the head of the Alliance or the head of the military of the Alliance in like a huge meeting. And she's like, well, my fiance died in combat. What about your family, Mr. President? Did your family do anything for this country? Did they die? And he's like, y'all, get her out of here. I don't got time for this.
Can we please like stop this? And then,
please.
What happens next kind of shocked me, where it's just like this like patriotic, I think they're called like the PKC, like the patriotic.
Yes. Patriotic Knights something.
Yes,
something
Knights
like
Corporation.
That?
Yeah,
Patriotic Knights Corporation.
So they're just a bunch of thugs who want to beat her up and for disrespecting the president like that. But then at the last minute, Yang shows up in a car with another one of his like subordinates, and they just rescue her in the nick of time. And then Yang goes to the president later and goes, did you do something? Did you do this? And he's like, no. And he's like, can you stop it if you did? He's like, sure.
That was such a funny conversation the whole time.
And the minute Yang steps out, like the head corp comes in and is like, are we stopping? No.
Oh. And then the whole time, like, Yang is like weirdly, by every military general and the president, every time like he has a conversation with them, they're like, I have big plans for you, Yang. You're going to be the soldier of the century. And then he's like, bro, I lost. Like, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about? I'm just a dude. That's all I am right now, is a dude.
And then at the end of the episode, they're like, we want you to. So what we want you to do, Yang, right? Next battle, all right? It's like it's next battle time. We want you to invade the Empire's stronghold fortress. And we want you to do it with like half the ships that we would normally give you. And that's it. There's no catch.
And a bunch of new, raw recruits. And he's like, what the fuck? And then the third episode ends.
What a funny way to end that episode, because obviously, like, I'm guessing the entirety of this 110 episodes, what I'm thinking is, if I can make a prediction, I feel like the vibe I got is that a lot of this series is going to be the Empire versus the Alliance, and like this whole like they're doing a couple different battles, and like we got the first battle in about 2 to 3 episodes, so the next battle is going to take about 2 to 3 episodes, and then so on and so forth. But then over time, I feel like they're going to have to unite against Fazan, because Fazan is like they cut to that area every so often, to like the government's house in Fazan, and they're like, how are things going on the Empire front? And they're like, another battle is going to emerge very shortly, sir. Shall we send our raw material over to them? And they're like, yeah, let's make that money, baby. So they're kind of very mysterious. I don't know exactly what they're going to do with all this money, but I feel like it's going to have to, it's going to come up.
Have to come to a head at some point.
And then the Empire and the Alliance have to unite together to fight them, because they both get their materials from this same source to fight the same battles. It kind of gives me a lot of the like in historically, it's just like very like Cold War era-esque, where
very
like
much
a
so.
country gets like, materials like, like Iraq or something, or Saudi Arabia got like guns from the United States at one point, and guns from another, and then we have to eventually fight them. And then it's like weird, because we're like,
oops.
So I think it's kind of that.
Oops.
Yeah,
that
just
makes
big
a lot of
oopsie.
sense. I love how you and I have different tactics for watching the show, where you're trying to guess ahead and you're thinking about it more. I didn't really do that. I went in kind of numb and just tried to take it in as a product of 3 episodes and see what the story had to give me.
What'd you think?
I'll be honest, I was a little disappointed by this one.
Really?
Because thankfully episode 3 kind of saved it, because the first 2 episodes, it felt way too direct from a book. Like I felt like I was reading more so than watching something. It was a lot of telling, not enough showing for my taste. It's like, guys, you've transferred from a non-visual medium to a visual medium here. You can make changes. Like and the dialogue for those 2 episodes was exclusively almost about the battle, and I'm like, oh, this is taking forever. So the first 2 episodes were losing me. The third episode provided me some intrigue and a cool starting point for the rest of the series. It's kind of funny how it fell directly in line with the 3-episode rule when this was made in '88.
It really did. Yeah, because the third one, it was like, all right, here's everything, and also
here's
let's
the story.
Introduce this new thing, and here's the actual story. It's like, oh yeah, that's good.
So you know what? So it was a bit of a slog, but then again, the first Star Trek movie was also famously a fucking slog.
Sure.
And it was a great launching point for the franchise. So I was a little disappointed by this little number after hearing so much hype, but I'm kind of intrigued. I'm curious to see where this goes.
Yeah, I guess the main question here is, after 3 episodes, are you in, or are you out? Are you going to keep watching it, or are you going to just say like, maybe not. Maybe I'll skip this one.
That's a good question. Truthfully, I didn't know when we started this, but I'm going to give I'll give it episode 4. I'll give it episode 4. And
give it a 4th.
I'll give it a 4th and go from there. I know it's a kind of a cop-out answer, but I'm intrigued enough, but at the same time, I was bored. So if the 4th episode doesn't grab me, I'm going to have to put this one on the shelf. I might come back. I might come back to it later, just because it is so well regarded. But at the same time, like 110 episodes, and I'm not that invested yet. So
it's a lot. I think it's like, You brought up a factor that is definitely a big factor for this for me is the boring factor, because
Yeah.
I did feel like it was a bit boring in a couple different places, and that's you can give that a pass. I feel like sometimes if the story is
Right.
compelling enough and like these characters are
Yeah.
compelling enough. I think the characters aren't really compelling enough yet. I feel
Yeah.
like they could get to that point, but within the first or second episode, I was just like, I have no real attachment to any of these characters yet.
None. Yeah.
And that's usually kind of a red flag. Is like, okay, well,
Right.
if I'm not attached to any of them, 3 episodes in, and I don't really care about what happens to them, then, that's a tough place to jump off from. I think for me, I don't think I'm continuing.
Yeah.
I just, I don't know. It's like, it wasn't, once again, like to ladder it back to the name of the podcast, it wasn't bad per se.
No,
I didn't think it
no.
was like horrendous. Like I didn't have a horrible time watching it or anything, but it was just like, I'm going to use a term that I don't use that often because it's overused, but I'm going to say mid. It was pretty mid.
Okay. So far, it was mid.
It was like, okay, it had a little promise, I feel like, but there really wasn't anything beyond just a lot of dialogue about this space battle.
Yeah.
Kind of like there's a little something here, but in general, there wasn't
Little
really
dry.
anything. It was a bit dry. Nothing really to keep my interest for 110 episodes. I mean, what I might do is I might just like read a plot synopsis of the whole thing and be like, okay, I'm just interested to know like where this goes.
Okay, fair.
But I don't think I'll watch it though. I think I'll just kind of like do that and be like, all right, well, there you go.
And get your curiosity settled that way. That's a good point.
Yeah, settle my curiosity. Read a Wikipedia page. Read a wiki on a fandom site or something like that. Just get like maybe watch a YouTube video about like what it's about,
What it
like
is,
a sum up of it. Yeah, I think that's more worth my time in this instance than going through all the episodes.
And especially for like the mid '80s. I mean, 3 years earlier, Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam premiered, and it looks almost as good as this. And you get, if you want your space battles with actual action and a lot of more compelling characters. Okay, yes, this is funny. We started with Legends of the Galactic Heroes, but now I'm just reiterating that everyone needs to go watch Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam. So that's what I'm saying. Don't watch this. Go watch Gundam.
See, because like it's fine, but I know there's better things,
Especially
in
when
this
it's like
realm.
because the outro the intro and outro in particular reminded me a lot of Zeta Gundam, and I'm like, I could just be watching Zeta Gundam.
I could just watch that instead of this. I'm surprised that you heard that it was something like pretty acclaimed and pretty
highly critically
good.
acclaimed. Yeah, so I guess maybe
Weird.
it gets more compelling as the series goes on. But I don't know how much I've left in me. There's so much.
Yeah,
there's so
I'm
much
sure.
anime out there every day. There's so much new anime being produced. Like we're recording this.
Sure.
We're recording this the week that Chainsaw Man dropped. There's there's a lot more anime out there.
And we will get to that because I think we need to do a 3-episode rule on that for sure.
Oh, totally.
But yeah, I mean, this was just I mean, it was pretty blah. I think when I look back to like maybe a year from now, I don't even think I'll remember this in like 3 months from now, probably.
If I'm not mistaken, I think its score on Mel is actually a 9, which is insane.
Really?
So I feel like we're doing it a disservice, but at the same time, maybe this is a good artifact for us, because if somehow we wind up continuing on with the series or viewing any more of it, this will be a good timestamp for us to say, hey, first 3 episodes weren't doing it.
And if anybody is listening to this and is like, oh my God, you guys don't even know the half of it. Yeah. I mean, we'll watch
Tell us.
more. If we're convinced, if you want to convince us and be like, okay, well, you have to make it to this certain episode, but like, you can't One Piece me. You can't be like, oh, once you make it to episode 110, it's the best. It's so good. Now, you can't do that to me, but
No.
Give me like a reasonable amount of time. If you give me like 10 episodes, I think I could work with that, like 10 to 12. But anything beyond that is like, I'm just going to be wasting my time if it takes me 2 seasons to enjoy this show finally.
Right.
Well,
But there we have it. We're tired and bored. That is the mood today.
Tired and bored. And that's well, I'm going to try to say the name again to see if I remember it, but Legends of the Galactic
You're almost there.
Legends of the Galactic Heroes.
There you go.
Heroes. Great.
It's bad.
Wow, oh my god, what a rousing podcast of anime conversation. Am I right, my compares? Am I right, my weebdom? Anywho, yeah, you can send us a message if you want. Did you like this podcast? Did you hate this podcast? Do you want to kill me? Do you want to drench me in Calaxosaur blood and watch me drink it? That's fine. Just send us an email at badanimepod@gmail.com or DM us on our Instagram at badanimepod, all one word. You can also find us on YouTube as Bad Anime, and you could leave a comment on whatever video you want to leave a comment on. We'll read them all anyways. We don't care. I love you. Kiss, kiss.
Simple Equations Podcast Network.